pushes way up the racetrack, and now here comes Janzik. Janzik goes by Guererri, and he goes by Inman. Burnell gets a great run, another 3 wide for the race lead. It's going to drag race off of turn 4. Shepard is there, but it's Larry White at the line. Still going to be Pat Ward, and they make contact. Britton has broken the race car. AJ Slideways. Alan Johnson wins.
Whether you hug the infield tires or rip the cushion, you found the fastest dirt track podcast in motorsports. Welcome to Where Legends Are Made, the official podcast of Land of Legends Raceway. Here's Stephen and Brad Ovens.
Hey fans, welcome aboard another episode of Where Legends Are Made, the official podcast of Land of Legends Raceway. Your track announcer Steve Ovens here with you, and got a awesome little session here with a driver who's been doing laps. In fact, I should say not only this driver, but this driver's family been doing laps for a number of years in Ontario County at Land of Legends Raceway and many different racetracks around Central New York and the Southern Tier. Frank Guererri Jr. joins us on the program this week. Frankie, welcome in, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, boy, there's a lot of different directions we could go to kind of kick this thing off, but I think it'd be interesting just to kind of start a little bit because we've got a lot of new fans that are starting to pay attention to things that are going on at the Land of Legends, and we're gaining a lot of new fans that are not necessarily in our area, and maybe they've never even been to the racetrack themselves yet. And so as an announcer, when I say, hey, this family has been racing here for a long, long time, and we're talking about second and third generation racers, I think sometimes it's hard for the newer fans to kind of connect those dots. So maybe that's kind of where I'll start and say, how did racing in your family, where did that start? Who's been involved, and how did you get started?
Well, my grandfather owned a car, and they raced at Waterloo Speedway. I don't believe my grandpa actually raced it. He was just owner mechanic on it. And my Uncle Phil as well was involved in that. And then, trickled down to their boys, my dad, Charlie, Brian, Phil, Paul. All of them guys were racing as we were growing up. And then, it's turned into a huge family event. Every Saturday is like a family reunion for us. You got, Nick just hung the helmet up for a little while, but, we had Nick, Matt, Paul, me, CJ, Davey even was behind the wheel for a little bit there. Hannah drove for a little bit. So it's been a huge ordeal since before I was even born. Our family being at the racetrack, whether it be Paradise or Waterloo Speedway, Land of Legends. We've been at Land of Legends for years and years, and it's just fell down generation to generation, really.
I know that it's always been known as the Back Row Gang, and do you know where the Back Row Gang came from? Was there one particular person? Was it within the race team that started calling it that? Was it one of the announcers over the years? How did the Back Row Gang come to be?
I don't know how the name got there, but Paul started parking back there, years and years ago, because that portion of the fence that we park next to in the back row, his family could actually walk up to the fence and see him when they weren't coming in the pits. So that's how that all started. And then we all just started piling back there with him. So, Kevin, and we've had a lot of people back there with us at certain times. Ray Hendershot was back there.
Yeah. Oh, there's been a bunch, and actually it's funny because there's a lot of drivers, like one of them I'm thinking of in particular that I've talked to recently that said, man, those guys are just amazing back there. They're always helpful. and somebody that's, really new, Brad Sawyer, new to Sportsman. And, he can't sing your guys' praises enough with how much help, you guys have been. But, we've talked about, I just had a conversation with Sydney Weatherby too, yeah, on a different end of the pit area, but man, it just seems like that has really been a running theme at Canandaigua is when somebody new comes in, everybody puts their arms around them and, really welcomes them in and makes them feel like family, whether they're blood relative or not.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to see somebody come in and do something the wrong way, or you try to pitch in, hey, this might make your life a little easier, or hey, I see this as a little different, maybe try doing this, or you know you always want to give a lending hand to whoever you can, in our eyes, whether it be parts of somebody's wrecking or just simple conversations and advice. If we could offer it, we got years of experience back there. And I blame Nick for a ton of this, because Nick is like the social bug of the family. He talks to everybody and it's just contagious. So, Brad, last year, I just seen them guys were doing tires a certain way. I'm like, hey guys, that's you're putting a lot of effort into that when you don't need to. You try doing it this way, or use this, or do that, and 90% of the people that come in, you try to help the people that actually will listen and are willing to learn. You could give anybody your advice. If they don't take it, it is what it is. But when they do take it, you're willing to give a little bit more and help them see them do good. We got to keep this and keep everybody moving forward. That's the biggest thing.
Oh, for sure, man. Absolutely. The thing, this has always been a family deal for you, even when you got your start. And I'm privileged to say that you and I go way back, when you got that start and got started in racing yourself. And, you most of the Guererri clan, it all started with Sportsman. And for
Right.
you, it was a much different path. Like you started in the youth class at back then BlackRock, now Outlaw. And then after that, it was full fenders. Continue, with I don't know if it was technically a pro stock or street stock, whatever it was called at that point in time. But you took a different path on your way to Sportsman.
Yeah. So I started getting my butt kicked by you every week in the rookie class. And in the four cylinders there at Outlaw the kids class, that was a ton of fun. And then my dad just thought I might be learning some bad habits, so he wanted to move me up. They wouldn't let me move up and race with the adults at what was then BlackRock. So we ended up going to Genesee because they would let me race with the adults. And I ended up winning the championship there that second year racing with the adults. My first year racing with the adults, but second year racing overall. And my dad was a full fender guy, and that was the path we always wanted to take. And so after that, we got a pro stock, and I raced weekly at Canandaigua and Wheatsport my first 2 seasons, running with the pro stocks, and made a ton of great friends and had a blast. And I really do miss the division around us. But as time went on, the expenses of the motors, and I mean, you're paying the same amount of money for the tires that the Sportsman guys, but when Sportsman went to crate motors, we were paying 3 times that amount for a crate motor as for an open motor in the pro stock. And financially, dad had some health problems and stuff, and we decided to call it quits for a little bit. My daughter was on the way, and I'm like, I want to get back racing. I started helping Nick a lot during that time, my cousin Nick, and we wanted to get back in it, and I wanted to go Sportsman racing because of the budget. We went through the last year running, when we moved back to street stocks, we went through 3 motors, and finally we're like, okay, we're done for the year. We can't keep affording this. So when I stepped away and I wanted to come back. I knew I wanted to come back in a sportsman car.
What was that difference like? I mean, was it truly night and day, or what was that transition like moving up to
Yeah,
sportsman?
it was completely night and day different. I did a little stint there with Elvin Payne in one of his sports, and your racing etiquette's your racing etiquette, but at the end of the day, the way the cars, move and bounce and steer and everything is just so different. It was crazy to me when I got into a sportsman car to see how different it was.
Yeah. Now, you know, you and I'm glad you brought up the starting at Genesee. I completely forgot about that. And there how long did you run at Genesee but when before you moved up to pro stock?
I ran one season. I ran the rookie one season in the kids class against you. And then the very next season, I ran the 4-cylinder class at Genesee against the adults. And I
Okay.
only ran 1 year. I won the championship. I think we won 7 races. And that's when, at the end of that season, we ended up selling the 4-cylinder and we bought a pro stock. Um, Kind of dad reclipped the rear of it, and it was kind of like a Stinger Jip Ortez front end on it. We bought that from Dave McCready, who was the promoter at Genesee Speedway back then.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha. Now, you had some success in the full fenders at Dundee too, as I remember.
Yeah, we were always competitive. So when we were pro stocks, we would go there. Dundee would offer $100 bonus to a pro stock that came and raced against the super stocks. So we were going there quite often, and more times than not, I would end up getting that $100 bonus. And then the super stocks came to Wheatsport at the end of that year, and I ended up winning that race. But like I said, we took some years off when my daughter was born, and when we came back to the pro stock class, really wasn't around.
Yeah.
So we converted the car over to a street stock, and we decided to go to Dundee on a weekly basis, and we had a ton of fun raising hell with Chris Fisher and going back and forth, and we had a ton of fun, and I ended up winning a bunch of races over there, and we won a championship over there as well.
Now, before we get into more topics on the sportsman and whatnot, you had a pro stock back in the day. You know what the super stocks were back in the day compared to what we see the street stocks are right now. I, the joke in my circle of friends in racing about street stocks now and super stocks is we're only 10-inch tires away from being what the super stocks were. How true is that? You've had some insight and experience with those types of cars, with where we see the street stocks being right now. How true of a statement is that?
I believe it's 100% true, man. You put them wide tires on the street stocks nowadays, especially the guys that have the newer stuff. You're absolutely right back to a super stock from the old days. I believe that to be true 100%. Somebody'd have to correct me on that. That's current with the street stock stuff now, but I agree with that statement 100%.
So you mentioned, you had your daughter Alyssa, you moved to Sportsman. Let's talk about her for a second. You told me right before we started recording this, man, she's going to be a senior this year, which is wild to me to start with. But she absolutely 100% loves being at the racetrack with her family and watching her dad. What is that experience like?
It's the best feeling in the world. Honestly, I don't know if she wasn't involved and didn't love it as much as she does. I don't know if I would be at the point I'm at right now. Uh, Everybody listening to this pretty much knows what it takes and what kind of a time investment and money investment we put into these cars. And we're at the shop 7 days a week, pretty much. And she'll be right here doing what she can to help me. She's my little cheerleader, and I honestly don't believe if it wasn't for her, I'd be where I'm at.
Now, I've seen some pictures floating around social media of her sitting behind the wheel, and are those pictures just for fun, or do you think there's interest there?
Uh 50-50. I don't know. I'd love to see her race to a certain extent. I wouldn't necessarily want her to be as involved as I was when I was her age. When I was racing pro stocks at Canandaigua and a senior in high school, I didn't go to prom, I didn't go senior skip day, I didn't do none of that. Senior trips. I was a racer and I would race 2-3 nights a week as much as I could. I quit all sports in high school. I don't know that I want her that involved to where she would go out and be 100% racing, but she's made a comment here or there, and she knows I've told her 100 times if she really wanted to do this, we'll get a smaller seat. We'll put that seat in, and she could go out and run a couple rookie races and go from there. But mom, on the other hand, she's kind of got a stronghold on that, and I don't think we were able to talk her into it just yet.
Well, we've seen that story before. It's I mean, you got to remember probably how your mom felt, back in the day when you got started, and yeah, it's we we uh we got to take care of the mamas out there, That's it's a big deal.
Absolutely. A quick funny story is when I was racing sportsman, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. My wife went to Del Lago Casino with her friends for the Impractical Jokers, and it was just me and Lissa going to the track together. And my wife's like, "Hey, you call me if anything happens." And I'm like, "Man, I've been doing this a long time. What's going to happen to where she's got to call you?" And that ended up being the night that I got on my lid. And when I was sitting in the ambulance, I was okay. I was perfectly fine. I was more nervous about how she was reacting in the pit
Yeah.
area. That just happened. And I got in there and I got out of the ambulance and she was running at me 100 miles an hour and she jumped into my arms and I just couldn't do anything but laugh. And I was okay. And she got so mad at me because all I could do was laugh to see how hysterical she was. So I always pick on her about that.
Yeah. Now let's talk about, kind of where you're at right now, because a few seasons ago I saw a good friend in racing that was, really struggling, really down on himself, and just was really lacking confidence. And then you go out for a few weeks and you had a surgery, I think, and you had to become a race fan, or supporting your family in the pits, but not behind the wheel. And I remember not long after that you end up winning a race, and you talked about how those few weeks of having to sit out helped you so much. Is that, then all of a sudden things start clicking. Rack up a couple wins, and now it seems like you're at the complete opposite end of that. Like things are going well. You were, pretty consistent in a very tough field of cars last season. Kind of where do you evaluate things now, and what was the thing that really started turning things around for you?
Well, yeah, you're right there. My appendix burst and I had to have a surgery. So obviously you never plan on that. And always being racers like we are, whether I'm in the car or in the stands, I still want to be there and support my family, do whatever I can to help. And one thing that happened there is I was sitting in the grandstands, turn one with my family, and I'm watching the big block guys going to turn one. And, it's just something clicked. It's like, man, I'm watching them and they're being so much more aggressive than I always was. I tend not to be aggressive, and my confidence lacks a ton. And I think it's a good portion of that is from not being aggressive. And it's like you said, it's just so easy when you put this much time and effort and money into it. It's like, man, what the results aren't coming. What am I actually really doing this for? You start beating yourself up, and to be honest with you, um, I wouldn't call it a depression or anything like that, but it's so much psychological that people don't understand. And so watching them guys, and I just made a vow to myself watching them how I always felt I was consistent through 3 and 4. And I just made a vow to myself when I came back, I was going to try to be way more aggressive and not get down on myself, not doubt myself. And to be honest with you, that was a huge role into me becoming a better driver and more consistent. I think I've always been a good driver, in my opinion. Maybe not everybody's opinion, but I've always been a good driver, and I could do this. It's just I get down on myself and doubt myself so damn much, and I don't know where that comes from because other than racing, I think I'm a pretty fun, confident guy. So uh, that's what started it. And obviously I won my first race back after that surgery. Well, the first race back, I shouldn't even have been in the car. And thank the Lord that it rained out that night as we were doing hot laps. But we came back the next week and I was feeling like I could definitely get race the whole night. And I ended up winning. So that was special. And that just built my confidence and built everybody's confidence around me too. So you start paying attention a little bit more when your confidence is up and you're running good, you're trying to do things better, on the car and make yourself a little faster. And I honestly think it all goes back to just sitting in those grandstands and just watching and telling myself I need to be more aggressive and be more confident. That's what a lot of this came from. And, last year I didn't get any wins, but I'm not going to sit here and cry and complain about that because it seemed like we flirted with the top 5 every single week,
Yeah.
making ourselves better and better and better. And up until 2 weeks left in the season, I was third in points all year. And we had some dumb luck, and then we got churned around and wrecked, and that kind of made it so we ended up where we ended up. But I'm not going to cry and complain about it. I'm just going to use it as learning experience and motivation to do better this year. I really believe right now where we stand between me and this car and the crew and people I have behind me, I can run for the championship. There's no doubt in my mind. I can be competitive week in and week out.
Man, that's not just as a track announcer, but as a friend, I love hearing that, man. Because this sport is tough, and it can really take a toll on you. And like, yeah, I mean, that consistency for you last year was awesome to see, and just hearing that confidence in you is awesome, man. And I agree with you. I think you guys showed last year that you can run with any of them, without a doubt. Now, kind of looking at that same thing, like what you went through a few seasons ago, I felt like Matt went through the same thing last year. Like for Matt, it just felt like nothing could go right. Like nothing could click for him. Like he could be there flirting with top 5s and got into the top 5 several times and was there on championship night, but I felt like he kind of went through that same thing last season of, you just have a season that and to be fair too, the last couple seasons prior to that, man, he had some magic. And then you just have one of those seasons that just feels like it beats you down. And, so it kind of makes me look forward to see what both of you guys come out with this year. Knowing that potential is there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. We were, me and Gibbs were texting back and forth last Sunday night. I've had my car out twice at outlaw practice. This year, shaking it down, making sure everything's good to go. And we were looking at times, and I think the first practice session I was third overall. Then we went back last week and I was second overall. And Gibbs texts me and he goes, "Man, you're gonna have to take it easy on me this year." And my comment back, I don't know if I actually texted him this, but my comment in my head was, "Dude, you had a crap season last year and you still kicked my ass." So I I know I don't. That's all I gotta say to him. He's going to be back to form this year. That class is so tough at the Land of Legends, and for Andrew Buff to do what he did last year, with both series races coming in and win, it lit a fire in my belly. I can tell you that. I'm not too damn happy about that because I tell people we have the toughest sportsman class around, and for an outsider to come in and win both series races, that kind of ticked me off a little bit. But Zabaka and Gibbs and I tell you, Paul at the end of the year last year, Paul was so consistent and so fast. And you got to look at these new guys. Nicholas Root, man, the transformation that kid made from opening week last year to the end of the year. Look what he did at Oswego, and you ain't going to be able to count that kid out anywhere as he goes. That's for sure. And Casey Coffey's fast. And honestly, I truly believe we got the toughest sportsman class around on a weekly basis.
Other than maybe some of the fans that watch Buff, out further east in our state, I'm not sure a lot of fans had that on their bingo board last year that he was going to come in and just put a whooping to everybody like that.
I tried, buddy. I tried. I led some laps. I ended up, me and Fowler made some small contact, and it ended up knocking my steering out of the car, and I fell back to fourth. I just couldn't turn into the corners how I needed to. But that's what I was more disappointed about Andrew winning both series races at our home track than anything else. But he's a tough competitor. You know what I mean? Anywhere you go, he's fast, and you can't take anything he's done away from him.
Yeah, and the other two names you mentioned there too, Paul, your uncle Paul, and then Nicholas Root. We sat down and kind of did a little bit of a rebirth of the Turn 5 podcast last week, and those were two names I brought up. I said, two sportsman predictions I have this year is Paul is going back to victory lane this year. Don't know when it's going to happen. Could be early, could be middle of the season. He could get multiple wins, but last year there were several of those nights where it's like, hey, Paul has not lost a thing in that 7 car. And that's one of my predictions is Paul's going to victory lane this year. And the other prediction was that Nicholas Root was going to be a title contender this year. Last year felt like such a huge step that he took in his development. And it sounds like, modifieds are in his future plans after this season. But yeah, like I fully on board there. I'm with you, brother. I think both of those things are gonna, be in the cards this year.
Yeah, and then you got comfort. Comfort's like my kryptonite, man. That old man, he still wheels and he gets it done. And it's like I get to him and I could never pass him. So he's still got a lot left in the tank, I believe. And Casey Coffey he showed tremendous growth as well, and he's always fast. And we definitely got our work cut out for us. But with the people I have around me and helping me, I don't see why we can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I know there's going to be a lot of folks that are watching and hoping that's the case. And, one other thing I wanted to mention too, because, such a big part of, what we do for drivers and fans and now advertisers at the Land of Legends is, streaming and sponsorship. And I know that was a big thing for you this off season, getting some sponsorship that, Jesus, clear down in Florida. There's a lot of sometimes I see, we really push, how much our drivers and their teams and their marketing partners get exposed at Land of Legends. And I think some people that don't really, you know, don't believe or don't really sit down and take a look at what's happening and the potential that's out there. Sometimes they scoff at that, but I think you are a great case study of how this can work and how this can help a driver accomplish the goals they want to accomplish and help that advertiser accomplish what they want to accomplish.
Yeah, that and also a lot of people probably don't know that my little sister and my brother-in-law's chief master sergeant, I do believe, in the Air Force, and they're all over the world. And she was able to wake up on Sunday mornings her time, have breakfast, turn their TV on and to Land of Legends, TV, and watch the stream from South Korea, while they're having breakfast and cheer me on. And I got my two nephews and my sister that every week they tune in. This year's going to be a little bit harder because they just got deployed to Germany, so they're only 6 hours ahead of us. So they'll probably be watching some more replays this year. But that alone, having my sister across the world and be able to watch, um, is absolutely awesome. And my parents not being in the best health, they could sit home and for free sit in their air condition and watch me race and be competitive. And then when, bring the trailer back home to mom and dad's house, dad be out there meet me and we could talk about the race then and there too. But yeah, those are the streaming has benefited my family tremendously just because of that, let alone the sponsorship opportunity it opened up for me. I'm pretty confident the sponsorship probably wouldn't have gone through the way it has if we didn't have Land of Legends TV streaming every week, free to all the fans anywhere. And my hat's off to you. And I know your brother Brad used to be a huge part of it too. And I think you guys are top notch and you set the bar. I think some of these other streaming services should be watching Land of Legends TV every week, seeing what you guys are doing, because I don't think their streaming services are as good and offer as much as you guys put out there. So for somebody in my shoes, just a basic guy, I've never had a ton of help sponsorship wise, and for this to open that door for me, that's huge.
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes a huge impact on the bottom line when it comes to the racing budget, and that's, it's a tool. It's a resource that doesn't, yes, obviously the track is doing the very best they can to bring in new sponsors that allows us to do a lot of this cool stuff and, try to keep purses as fair as possible to, because again, just like race teams have budgets and stuff, so don't tracks and trying to keep operating. And, it's that this is a very difficult landscape to be operating in. But, and you mentioned a few, of the players. I want to mention Art Rorick too. The Land of Legends TV has really been his brainchild from the start. And what is really cool, and I know the fans listening to the podcast this week, may not have the insight into some of those things that are all happening in the background and work that is happening this off season. I appreciate your feedback on our show, and quite honestly, we have so much more that we're getting ready to roll out and more that we're bringing to our broadcast this coming season. It's, I'm as excited as any season, since I've been working at Canandaigua about what our broadcast is going to look like this year. And we've got cool features that are coming. We've got young kids that are getting involved, which is amazing. Like three of our three of our we can't even call them interns anymore because they've earned their spots on the staff now, but we've got three kids that are in high school that are huge contributing members to the production team. And yeah, I just like racers are looking forward to getting on the track. I can't wait for opening night because we've got, a lot of cool stuff for the stream planned this year. So looking forward to all that. But anyway, Frank, I don't want to get too off topic here, but it is. It's such a huge component, and it's a resource. And I applaud you and your guys' efforts for, taking that and using it for whatever you can. It's a great thing. But we're on the train of talking about sponsors, so want to give a opportunity here for you to highlight those folks that are on board this year.
Yeah, I mean, this year has definitely been the most help I've ever had, and I can't thank Lions Engineering from Cape Coral, Florida, coming on board. I got Nick, we call him Pickles, with NG Promotions. He's back, and if you guys need any T-shirts or banners or flyers or anything made like that, go check out NG Promotions. Facebook.
I cannot wait to get my Bubba t-shirt, by the way.
Oh, I ordered one too. And we got a couple new guys with Lions Engineers and Morocco Machining. Tommy came on board this year, has been a tremendous help. And then we got returning sponsors and NG Promotions and Wally's Ford of Seneca Falls, ImageX. Man, they got this thing looking sweet. I'm excited to get it out on the track with some Hoosiers on it. Steve Ladd came on board. He's a great, and he's doing what he can to help us. And I really, really am excited about this year. We're going to try to get my dad out to some more races so he can hang out and see what trouble do. And I'm just ready to go. We got Americans on the car right now, waiting to see what if we're going to make it to practice Saturday at Canandaigua. We're going to swap the car over to Hoosiers. But if for some reason Mother Nature doesn't play nice and we can't get over there, we're going to try to get the Outlaw on Friday, get some more laps and stuff underneath the car, because I think that's another big thing. Nick Root from last year, that kid was racing multiple times every week, and we're going to try to do the same this year. Well, maybe not every week racing 2 times, but if there's a show around, we're going to try to make it there. We finally have that where we got fuel and we got tires and make it the best season we can.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the time. Please tell all the members of your family, no matter where they're located, that I said hello. I've always enjoyed great friendship and with your folks, and still to this day, my friend, will never ever forget our camping experience at Super Dirt Week. I don't think either of us even had licenses to drive yet.
No, we did. And the funny is I'll never forget it either, brother. I mean, walking to the microd track and going over, and remember you even announcing with the remote control cars they had there.
Yeah.
So we've come ways, brother. I've enjoyed it of it.
It's been a hell of a ride, and it ain't done yet.
That's for sure.
All right, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right, folks. That's Frank Guererri Jr. Getting ready to go. He's going to be doing a lot of racing this year. You'll see him out there in the 113 Junior. You'll see him each and every Saturday at the Land of Legends in our Sterling Lubricant Sportsman division. And I'm telling you, they're riding on a lot of consistency from last year and looking to put that 113 back down in McGuire Ford Victory Lane this year. So thanks for tuning in. We've got another great interview coming up for you later this week. We're going to sit down with former New Legends winner, Brad Sawyer will be on the podcast coming up later this week. So stay tuned for that, and download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, or you can catch it right here on the Land of Legends Raceway Facebook page. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you a little bit later this week.
Land of Legends Raceway fans, tune in each and every week of the racing season to Where Legends Are Made, a podcast dedicated to covering the drama, excitement, and hear from the drivers from your favorite dirt track. Stephen Ovens and Brad Ovens walk you through the week that was Where Legends Are Made. Subscribe on Apple or Google Podcasts.